The crystal chandeliers sparkled above the ballroom as Simone Brooks walked through the crowd of elegant guests. Her hands trembled slightly, but she kept moving forward. Her green dress, the nicest thing she owned, felt out of place among the designer gowns surrounding her. She had spent her last $20 on the charity gala ticket, not for the food or the networking but for one single purpose: to face him. Christopher Lawson stood near the bar, surrounded by admirers as always. The billionaire CEO of Lawson Industries looked exactly like his pictures: tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair touched with gray at the temples. His navy suit probably cost more than Simone's entire year of rent. Women kept approaching him, each one receiving the same polite but cold dismissal. He had a reputation for rejecting every romantic advance with the efficiency of a well-oiled machine. But Simone wasn't here for romance. She was here because Christopher Lawson owned the building that housed the Riverside Community Center, the place she had poured 5 years of her life into building. The place that served 200 families every week. The place he was planning to sell to a developer who would tear it down to build luxury condos. She had tried everything else. Phone calls went unanswered. Emails disappeared into the void. His secretary had stopped taking her messages 3 weeks ago. Tonight was her last chance, even if it meant making a scene in front of the city's most powerful people. Simone pushed through the final cluster of guests and stopped directly in front of Christopher Lawson. Up close, his gray eyes were even colder than she had imagined. He glanced at her with the same detached politeness he had given everyone else. "Mr. Lawson," Simone said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "We need to talk about the Riverside Community Center." "I don't discuss business at social events," Christopher replied, his tone flat. He started to turn away. "Then maybe you should discuss it somewhere, anywhere, instead of ignoring the 200 families whose lives you're about to destroy." The conversations around them began to fade. People were starting to notice. Christopher turned back, his expression unchanged. "Miss Brooks, Simone Brooks, I've been trying to reach you for 3 months. I'm sure my staff has handled your concerns. Your staff sent me a form letter. A form letter telling me that the building I've worked in for 5 years is being sold in 60 days. Simone felt the anger she'd been holding back start to rise. "Do you have any idea what that community center means to people? We teach kids to read. We help people find jobs. We feed families who have nowhere else to go." "I'm sure you do good work," Christopher said, his voice still maddeningly calm. "But this is a business decision." "A business decision." Simone repeated the words and something in her snapped. Around them, the entire ballroom had gone quiet. "Is that what you call it when you put profit over people? When you take away the only safe place some kids have? When you destroy something beautiful just because you can?" "Miss Brooks, this is neither the time nor the place." "Then when is the time? When is the place? You won't take my calls. You won't read my letters. You hide behind your assistants and your lawyers while real people suffer." Simone's voice carried across the silent room. "I came here tonight because I'm desperate. Because in 60 days, everything I've built is gone. And you don't even care enough to look me in the eye while you do it." For the first time, Christopher Lawson truly looked at her. His gray eyes met hers and something flickered in them. Surprise maybe. Or interest. "You're right," he said quietly. "I should have taken your call." The admission shocked Simone into silence. "Come to my office Monday morning. 9 o'clock. We'll discuss this properly." He pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to her. "Ask for me directly." Simone stared at the card, then back at him. "You'll really meet with me?" "I said I would." She wanted to say something else to press her advantage, but the exhaustion of the last 3 months suddenly crashed over her. She had done what she came to do. "Thank you," she managed. Christopher nodded once, then walked away, leaving Simone standing in the middle of the ballroom with every eye in the room on her. As the shocked whispers started up around her, Simone clutched the business card and tried to breathe normally. She had just publicly confronted the most powerful man in the city. She had called him out in front of everyone who mattered. Tomorrow she would either be a hero or unemployed. But at least she had tried. At least she had spoken up for the people who couldn't speak for themselves. Her grandmother had always told her that kindness and courage went hand in hand. Sometimes love for others meant risking everything. Simone turned and walked out of the ballroom with her head high, even though her legs felt like water. Behind her, the whispers grew louder. By morning, everyone would know what she had done. The night air hit her face as she stepped outside. She had spent her last $20 on that ticket. She would have to walk home, a journey of 45 minutes through the city streets. But she barely noticed. Her mind kept replaying the moment when Christopher Lawson had looked at her, really looked at her, and said she was right. Maybe, just maybe, Monday morning would bring a miracle. Maybe the coldest man in the city had a heart after all. Simone started walking, the business card still clutched in her hand, and let herself hope. Have you ever had to risk everything for something you believed in? What would you do if your community's future depended on convincing someone who seemed impossible to reach? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for the rest of Simone's journey. Will Christopher Lawson really help her, or was his promise just empty words? Monday morning arrived too quickly. Simone stood in front of Lawson Industries headquarters, a gleaming glass tower that reached 30 stories into the sky. Her navy dress, pressed carefully the night before, suddenly felt shabby. She had been awake since 5, rehearsing what she would say. The lobby was all marble and chrome. A security guard directed her to the top floor. When the elevator doors opened, a woman in a perfect gray suit greeted her immediately. "Miss Brooks? Mr. Lawson is expecting you. This way, please." Simone followed, her heart pounding. She had expected to wait, to be made to feel small and insignificant. Instead, she was being treated like an important client. Christopher's office took up half the top floor. Windows on 3 sides offered views of the entire city. He stood looking out at the skyline, his back to the door. "Mr. Lawson, Miss Brooks is here," the assistant announced. He turned. In the morning light, he looked different than he had at the gala. Tired maybe. More human. He wore a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, no jacket. "Thank you, Patricia. Please hold my calls." When they were alone, Christopher gestured to a sitting area by the windows. "Please sit down." Simone perched on the edge of a leather chair, her folder of documents clutched in her lap. "Thank you for seeing me. I should have seen you months ago." He sat across from her, his posture formal but not hostile. "You were right. About everything you said Saturday night." The admission stunned her. I've been too focused on numbers and not enough on people. When I reviewed your file yesterday, I realized I had made a significant error in judgment." He leaned forward slightly. "Tell me about the Riverside Community Center. Everything. What you do, who you serve, why it matters." So Simone told him. She spoke for 20 minutes, describing every program, every success story, every child who had learned to read, every adult who had found work. She showed him photographs and letters from families. She explained how the center had become the heart of the neighborhood. Christopher listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "I'm going to be honest with you, Miss Brooks. I had no idea any of this existed. When my property managers recommended selling that building, I looked at profit margins and market values. I never visited. I never asked what was actually happening there. And now..." Simone held her breath. "Now I want to make this right." He stood and walked to his desk, returning with a folder. "I'm proposing something different. Instead of selling the building, I want Lawson Industries to become the primary sponsor of the Riverside Community Center. We'll renovate the building, fund your programs, and provide resources for expansion." Simone felt her eyes widen. "What?" "You'll maintain complete control of programming and operations. We'll simply provide financial backing and support." He handed her the folder. "These are initial proposals. Review them with your board, suggest changes, tell me what you need." She opened the folder with shaking hands. The numbers inside made her dizzy. It was more money than she had dreamed of asking for. "Mr. Lawson, this is incredibly generous. It's what should have happened from the beginning." He sat back down. "I've spent 10 years building a company and forgot why I started. My mother ran a community center when I was young. It closed due to lack of funding. I told myself I would never let that happen again, and then I almost did exactly that. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Accept the help. Let me make this right." Every instinct Simone had told her to be suspicious, to look for catches and hidden clauses. But the sincerity in Christopher's eyes seemed genuine, and she had come here hoping for a miracle. Here it was, sitting in her lap. "Yes," she said firmly. "Yes, we accept. With gratitude. Thank you." A smile crossed Christopher's face, the first real smile she had seen from him. It transformed his entire appearance, making him look younger and infinitely more approachable. "Good. When can I visit the center? I want to see it for myself." "Anytime. We're open every day." "How about right now?" Simone blinked. "Now? Unless you have other plans." He was already standing, reaching for his jacket. "I've cleared my schedule for today. Show me what I almost destroyed." 20 minutes later, They pulled up to the Riverside Community Center in Christopher's town car. The building looked even more run-down next to his luxury vehicle. Faded blue paint peeled from the doors, and the sign needed replacing. But inside, life buzzed with energy. Children filled the after-school program room, working on homework at donated tables. In the kitchen, volunteers prepared meals for the evening dinner service. Upstairs, a job training class was in session. Simone watched Christopher as he took it all in. His expression was unreadable. "Mr. Lawson," a small voice said. A boy of about 7 stood nearby, holding a book. "Are you the man who's going to help Miss Simone?" Christopher crouched down to the child's level. "I'm going to try. What's your name?" "Jerome. I'm learning to read. Miss Simone teaches me every Tuesday." "That's wonderful. What are you reading?" Jerome held up the book proudly. "A story about space. I want to be an astronaut when I grow up." "That's an excellent goal." Christopher glanced at Simone, then back at Jerome. "Study hard. Dream big. And never let anyone tell you that you can't do something." "Okay." Jerome grinned and ran off to show his book to a friend. Christopher stood slowly. "How many children come here?" 53 in our after-school program. More during summer. "And you teach them yourself?" "I do what I can. We have volunteers too." Simone gestured around. "Everyone here gives what they can, whether it's time or skills or donations. We make it work." For the next 2 hours, Christopher toured every corner of the center. He spoke with volunteers, met parents picking up their children, and watched a cooking class in progress. He asked questions constantly, taking notes on his phone. As the dinner service began, he rolled up his sleeves and helped serve meals. Simone found herself standing beside him, ladling soup into bowls for the steady stream of people coming through. Many were elderly, some were families with young children, others were individuals who had fallen on hard times. "Thank you, baby," one elderly woman said to Simone, then looked at Christopher. "And thank you too, young man. You new here?" "Yes, ma'am," Christopher replied. "First time. Well, you're doing good work. God bless you." When the dinner service ended and the last guest had left, Christopher helped clean up without being asked. He wiped down tables and stacked chairs alongside the volunteers. "You didn't have to do that," Simone said as they stood in the empty dining room. "I wanted to." He looked around at the worn but clean space. "This place is special. You've built something truly remarkable here. We all built it together. But you're the heart of it. That's obvious." He met her eyes. "I meant what I said this morning. I want to help. Whatever you need. You already have. More than you know." Simone felt emotion tighten her throat. 3 months ago I thought we were finished. Now you have a partner. If you'll have me." She extended her hand. "Partners." He shook it, his grip warm and firm. "Partners." As Christopher left that evening, Simone stood in the doorway watching his car disappear into the city traffic. Around her, the volunteers were chattering excitedly about the billionaire who had come to help, about the renovation plans, about the miracle that had walked through their doors. But Simone was thinking about something else. About the way Christopher had crouched down to talk to Jerome eye to eye. About how he had called the elderly woman ma'am, with genuine respect. About the careful way he had listened to every person he met. Maybe the cold billionaire of reputation wasn't cold at all. Maybe he was just someone who had forgotten how to connect with people. And maybe, just maybe, the Riverside Community Center could teach him how to care again. The renovation began on Wednesday. Christopher didn't just send contractors and write checks. He showed up every morning at 8, dressed in jeans and work shirts, ready to help. Simone arrived on the first day to find him already there, discussing plans with the construction foreman. He had changed from his business suits into casual clothes that made him look more approachable. His blue button-down shirt was already dusty from examining the building's infrastructure. "Good morning," he called when he saw her. "I hope you don't mind. I wanted to get started early." "Mind? This is wonderful." Simone set down her bag and joined them. "What's the plan?" For the next hour, Christopher walked her through every detail. New heating and cooling systems. Fresh paint throughout. Upgraded kitchen equipment. A computer lab for job training. Expansion into the currently unused basement for more classroom space. He had thought of everything. "And I want to add something else," Christopher said, pulling out his phone to show her images. "A rooftop garden. Somewhere the community can grow food together, where kids can learn about nature. What do you think?" Simone felt tears prick her eyes. "That's perfect. Absolutely perfect." "Good. Then we'll make it happen." He smiled at her, that same transforming smile that made him look like a different person. "Now, where do you need me?" "I'm here to work." They spent the day coordinating volunteers and construction workers. Christopher proved to be surprisingly hands-on, moving furniture alongside everyone else, organizing supplies, even climbing a ladder to help remove old light fixtures. He treated every volunteer with respect, learning names and asking about their lives. During lunch, they sat on the front steps eating sandwiches that one of the volunteers had brought. Children played in the small yard nearby, their laughter filling the air. "You're good at this," Simone observed. "At what?" "Connecting with people. I thought you would be more distant." Christopher was quiet for a moment. "I used to be better at it. Then I spent years building a company focusing only on success and growth. Somewhere along the way I forgot that business is about people, not just profit." "What made you change?" "You did." He looked at her directly. "When you stood up to me at that gala, you reminded me who I used to be. Who I want to be again." Before Simone could respond, Jerome came running up, his face excited. "Miss Simone, Mr. Christopher, come see what we found in the basement." They followed the boy downstairs, where a group of children had discovered a collection of old books in a forgotten corner. The volumes were dusty but intact, classics and adventure stories from decades past. "Can we keep them?" Jerome asked hopefully. "Absolutely," Christopher said immediately. "In fact, let's create a proper library. We'll get bookshelves, comfortable chairs, good lighting. Make it a real reading room." The children cheered and immediately began planning where everything should go. Simone watched as Christopher knelt among them, listening seriously to each suggestion, treating their ideas with genuine consideration. As the days passed, a routine developed. Christopher arrived every morning. They worked together all day. In the evenings, they reviewed progress and made plans for the next day. The center began to transform before their eyes. But more than the building was changing. Simone found herself looking forward to Christopher's arrival each morning. She noticed small things about him. How he always made sure the volunteers took breaks, how he remembered everyone's names after meeting them once, how he never talked down to anyone regardless of their circumstances. One afternoon they were painting the main hallway together, working side by side on ladders. Christopher had paint in his hair and on his nose, looking nothing like the intimidating billionaire from the gala. "You're smiling," he observed. "Am I?" Simone realized she was. "I'm just happy. This is really happening. The center is going to be better than I ever imagined. That's because you dared to fight for it. If you hadn't confronted me that night? If I hadn't been terrified and desperate, you mean?" "No. If you hadn't been brave." He paused in his painting. "Most people would have given up after being ignored for 3 months. You didn't. You walked into a room full of powerful people and spoke truth to power. That takes real courage. Or stupidity." "Courage," he insisted. "You believed in something bigger than yourself. That's rare." They continued painting in comfortable silence. Outside, the sounds of the neighborhood drifted through open windows. Children playing, neighbors calling to each other, the everyday symphony of community life. "I like it here," Christopher said suddenly. "I like being part of this." "You are part of it now. Everyone asks about you when you're not here." "They do. Jerome talks about you constantly. He told his teacher that a businessman is teaching him that success means helping others." Simone smiled at the memory. "You're making a difference." Christopher looked pleased but also slightly uncomfortable with the praise. "I'm just trying to help." "You are. More than you know." As the sun set, they finished the hallway and stood back to admire their work. The fresh green paint had transformed the dingy corridor into something bright and welcoming. "We make a good team," Christopher said. "Yes," Simone agreed. "We do." Over the following weeks they fell into an easy partnership. Christopher brought business expertise and resources. Simone brought knowledge of the community and understanding of their needs. Together they created something neither could have accomplished alone. The computer lab opened first, equipped with new computers and software that Christopher's company donated. They held a ribbon-cutting ceremony, and 20 people signed up for job training classes on the spot. The kitchen renovation finished next. Commercial-grade equipment replaced the old donated appliances. The cooking classes expanded, teaching nutrition and meal preparation skills to families. Through it all, Christopher was there. Not just funding the projects but participating in them. He taught a session in the business skills class, sharing real-world experience with aspiring entrepreneurs. He coached a youth basketball team using the newly refinished court. He joined the board of directors and attended every meeting. Simone watched him transform from the cold CEO of reputation into someone warm and engaged. She saw how naturally kindness came to him when he allowed himself to show it, and she felt her own feelings changing. What had started as gratitude for his help was becoming something else. Something warmer. Something that made her heart beat faster when he smiled at her. But she pushed those thoughts aside. This was about the community center. About helping people. Romance had no place in their partnership. At least that's what she kept telling herself. On a Friday evening, as they locked up the center together, Christopher turned to her. "Simone, I want to thank you." "Thank me? For what?" "You're the one who saved us. You saved me first. Before I met you, I was going through the motions of life. Building wealth but not meaning. You reminded me what matters. You gave me purpose again." Simone felt her breath catch. "Christopher. I know we're partners in this project. But I hope we're also becoming friends." She smiled even as her heart did complicated things in her chest. "Yes, we're friends." As they walked to their cars, Simone realized that she had never been happier. The center was thriving. The community was coming together. And Christopher Lawson, the man who supposedly rejected everyone, had become one of the most important people in her life. Whatever came next, they would face it together. 3 months into the renovation, the Riverside Community Center had become almost unrecognizable. The building gleamed with fresh paint, new windows and modern fixtures. But the real transformation was happening in less visible ways. Christopher had become a fixture in the neighborhood. He knew the regular dinner service guests by name. He attended community meetings and listened to people's concerns. He stayed late on Fridays to help tutor kids who needed extra help with math. On a Tuesday morning, Simone arrived to find Christopher already in the basement, helping install bookshelves for the new library. He was laughing with 2 volunteers, completely at ease. "Morning," he called when he saw her. "We're almost done here. The books arrived yesterday. Want to help organize them?" They spent the morning sorting books by category, building a system that would make sense for everyone who used the library. It was peaceful work, made pleasant by easy conversation. "Can I ask you something?" Simone said as they shelved mysteries. "Why do you work so hard here? You could just write checks and show up for photo opportunities. But you're here almost every day doing the actual work." Christopher was quiet for a moment, carefully placing a book on the shelf. "My mother died when I was 15. Cancer. Before that, she ran a community center in our neighborhood, a lot like this one. After she died, the center closed. There wasn't anyone to keep it going and the funding dried up. I'm so sorry. I decided then that I would become successful enough to make sure other centers never closed. That communities would always have places like this." He paused. "But somewhere along the way I got lost in building my company. I forgot the why behind the what. When you confronted me at the gala, you woke me up. You reminded me of my mother, of her passion for helping people." Simone felt her heart ache for the boy who had lost his mother, for the man who had lost his way. "She would be proud of you now." "I hope so." He turned to look at her. "But I'm also here for another reason. I like spending time with you." The admission hung in the air between them. Simone felt her pulse quicken. "I like spending time with you too." "Good." He smiled, but there was something vulnerable in his expression. "Because I haven't had a real friend in years. I'd forgotten what it feels like to connect with someone outside of business negotiations." Friend. The word should have felt right, but instead, it left Simone with an odd sense of disappointment. She pushed the feeling aside. Friendship was good. Friendship was safe. Friendship wouldn't complicate their partnership. "Tell me about your mother," she said, changing the subject gently. "What was she like?" For the next hour, as they continued organizing books, Christopher told stories about his childhood. His mother had been full of energy and hope, always believing in people's potential. She had taught him that everyone deserved dignity and respect, regardless of their circumstances. She used to say that kindness was the only currency that mattered, Christopher said. That you could buy anything with money, but real wealth was measured in the lives you touched. She sounds wonderful. She was. She would have loved this place. Loved you. He caught himself. I mean, loved what you do here. Simone felt her cheeks warm. I wish I could have met her. She would have told you to keep fighting, keep believing. She would have said that people like you are the reason the world has hope. They finished the library by early afternoon. Standing in the doorway looking at the neat rows of books and comfortable reading chairs, Simone felt a sense of accomplishment. The kids are going to love this, she said. We should have a grand opening. Make it special. That's a wonderful idea. We could have refreshments, maybe some readings. They walked upstairs together, planning the library opening. In the kitchen, volunteers were preparing for the evening meal service. Christopher automatically grabbed an apron and joined them, chopping vegetables with practiced ease. Simone watched him work. He had changed so much from the cold CEO she had confronted months ago. Or maybe he hadn't changed. Maybe this had always been who he was, buried under years of isolation and loss. "Penny for your thoughts," Christopher said, noticing her attention. "Just thinking about how different things are now." "Better?" "Much better." That evening after the dinner service, they sat on the newly installed bench in the small yard. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. In a few weeks, the rooftop garden would be complete, but for now, this small patch of grass and flowers was enough. "Can I tell you something?" Christopher said. "Something I haven't told anyone." "Of course. I've been lonely. For years. I built this image of myself as someone who didn't need anyone, who was above personal relationships. I rejected every woman who approached me because I thought attachment was weakness." He looked down at his hands. "But really, I was just afraid. Afraid of losing someone the way I lost my mother. Afraid of caring and getting hurt." Simone reached over and placed her hand on his. "That's not weakness. That's human. You're not afraid." "Of course I am. I'm terrified all the time. Afraid the center will fail, afraid I'm not doing enough, afraid I'll let people down. But I do it anyway because the love I have for this community is bigger than my fear." "How do you do that? How do you keep your heart open when the world can be so hard?" "By remembering that kindness always matters. That hope always matters. That love in all its forms is always worth the risk." She squeezed his hand gently. "You're doing it too. You've opened your heart to this place, to these people. That takes courage." Christopher turned his hand over, interlacing his fingers with hers. The gesture felt natural, comfortable. "Thank you, Simone. For everything. For saving this place. For saving me too." They sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell around them. The neighborhood sounds became evening sounds. Families settling in for the night, crickets chirping, the distant hum of traffic. Neither of them wanted to let go of the other's hand. Neither of them acknowledged what that might mean. But something had shifted between them. The boundary between friendship and something more had begun to blur. In the gathering darkness, with their hands intertwined, both of them felt it. A possibility. A hope. A beginning of something that neither had expected but both were starting to want. "I should go," Christopher finally said, though he made no move to stand. "Yes," Simone agreed, though she didn't release his hand. They sat for 5 more minutes before finally, reluctantly letting go. As Christopher walked to his car, he turned back to wave. In the porch light, Simone waved back, feeling something warm bloom in her chest. Tomorrow they would go back to being partners, friends, colleagues. But tonight, for just a moment, they had been something else. Something undefined but undeniably real. And both of them would lie awake that night, thinking about a simple touch of hands and what it might mean for the future. The library opening was a huge success. Children clustered around the new bookshelves, pulling out volumes with wonder. Parents browsed the parenting section. Job seekers found resources for interviews and resume writing. The space quickly became everyone's favorite part of the renovated center. Christopher had arranged for a local author to come read to the children. Jerome sat in the front row, his eyes wide with amazement. Afterward, he ran up to Christopher with a book clutched in his hands. "Mr. Christopher, will you read with me?" "I'd be honored." Simone watched them settle into 2 comfortable chairs, Christopher's deep voice bringing the story to life while Jerome followed along. Something in her chest squeezed tight. This man, who supposedly rejected everyone, was now completely transformed by the simple act of reading to a child. After the event, as volunteers cleaned up, Christopher found Simone in her office. "Do you have a minute?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Always. What's on your mind?" He came in and closed the door, which immediately made Simone's heart rate increase. Christopher looked nervous, which was unlike him. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she had learned meant he was uncertain about something. "I have something to ask you, and I want you to know that there's absolutely no pressure. If you say no, nothing changes between us. We're still partners, still friends." "Christopher, what is it? Would you have dinner with me?" "Not a business dinner. A real date." Simone felt her breath catch. She had been trying so hard not to think about her growing feelings for him, telling herself that their partnership was too important to risk. But hearing him ask the question made her realize how much she wanted to say yes. "I know this is complicated," Christopher continued when she didn't immediately answer. "The center, our partnership, everything we've built together. But I can't stop thinking about you, Simone. When I'm not here, I'm thinking about seeing you the next day. When I'm with you, everything feels right in a way nothing else has for years. Yes, Simone said. Christopher blinked. Yes. Yes, I'll have dinner with you. I want to. She stood up and walked around her desk. I've been trying not to feel this way because I was afraid of what it might mean for the center. But kindness and hope mean taking risks, right? And I think you're worth the risk. His smile was brilliant. Really? Really? Tomorrow night? I'll pick you up at 7? Perfect. Christopher left with a spring in his step that made several volunteers comment on his good mood. Simone spent the rest of the day in a happy daze, helping with evening programs while her mind raced through her closet, trying to decide what to wear. That night, she called her best friend Denise, who had been her supporter through all the center's struggles. He asked me on a date, Simone announced as soon as Denise answered. The billionaire? Christopher Lawson? Yes. Denise squealed. Finally. We've all been waiting for this. What do you mean we've all? Girl, everyone at the center has been watching you two dance around each other for months. The way he looks at you? The way you light up when he walks in the room? It's been obvious to everyone except apparently you two. Simone laughed. I was trying to be professional. Professional is good. But happiness is better. So what are you wearing? They spent an hour discussing outfit options, settling on Simone's red dress, the one that made her feel confident and beautiful. After hanging up, Simone stood in front of her mirror, holding the dress up and allowing herself to feel excited. Christopher Lawson had asked her on a date. The man who rejected everyone had chosen her. Not because she was different or special, but because they had built something real together. Because they had become friends first, partners in a shared mission. Because kindness and hope had brought them together. The next evening, Simone was ready by 6:30, too nervous to sit still. When Christopher knocked on her apartment door at exactly 7, she took a deep breath before answering. He stood in the hallway in a charcoal gray suit, holding flowers. But it was the expression on his face when he saw her that made her heart soar. Pure admiration mixed with wonder. You look beautiful, he said softly. Thank you. You look very handsome. She accepted the flowers, a bouquet of bright yellow sunflowers. These are lovely. They reminded me of you. Bright and warm. She put them in water, then grabbed her purse. Where are we going? You'll see. He took her to a restaurant on the top floor of one of the city's oldest buildings. The view of the skyline was spectacular, but Simone found herself more interested in Christopher than the scenery. Away from the center, he seemed more relaxed but also more vulnerable. This wasn't Christopher the CEO or Christopher the volunteer. This was just Christopher, a man on a date hoping to make a good impression. I have to admit, he said after they ordered. I'm nervous. I haven't done this in years. Neither have I. I've been too busy with the center. Then we're both out of practice. He smiled. We'll figure it out together. Dinner was easy and comfortable. They talked about everything. Their childhoods, their dreams, their favorite books and movies. Christopher told funny stories about his early days building his company. Simone shared memories of starting the center with nothing but determination and hope. Do you ever regret it? Christopher asked. Dedicating so much of your life to the center? You could have focused on your own career, made more money, had an easier life. Never. Not once. Simone spoke without hesitation. Every struggle was worth it. Every late night, every moment of doubt, every challenge. Because we're changing lives. Real lives. That matters more than anything. Your passion is incredible. It's one of the things I admire most about you. What are the other things? He considered the question seriously. Your courage. Your kindness. The way you see the best in people, even people like me who had forgotten how to see it in themselves. The way you lead with hope instead of fear. Your laugh. The way you really listen when people talk. Should I keep going? Simone felt herself blush. That's a pretty good list. I could add more. Your turn. What do I admire about you? She counted on her fingers. Your willingness to admit when you're wrong. The way you've embraced the community. How you treat everyone with respect, regardless of who they are. How you're not afraid to get your hands dirty. Your dedication once you commit to something. We're good at complimenting each other. We're good at a lot of things together. After dinner, they walked through the nearby park. The evening was warm and couples and families filled the paths. Christopher took her hand as they walked, and Simone felt a sense of rightness settle over her. I want to be honest with you, Christopher said. I've spent years avoiding relationships because I was afraid. Afraid of losing control, afraid of getting hurt, afraid of caring too much. But with you I'm not afraid. Or maybe I am, but I want to try anyway. I'm scared too, Simone admitted. This matters so much. You matter so much. The idea of risking our partnership, our friendship, is terrifying. Then let's be scared together. Let's take it slow. See where this goes. He stopped walking and turned to face her. But I want you to know that I'm serious about this. About you. I'm not playing games or passing time. I want to see if we can build something real. Simone looked up at him, at the sincerity in his gray eyes, at the hope and vulnerability in his expression. This was a man who had opened his heart after years of keeping it locked away. Who had chosen kindness over coldness, connection over isolation. Who had chosen her. I want that too, she said. He smiled, then leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't want to. When his lips met hers, it felt like coming home. The kiss was gentle, sweet, full of promise. When they pulled apart, Christopher rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that for months. Why didn't you? Timing. Fear. Uncertainty. Pick your excuse. He laughed softly. But I'm glad I finally did. They continued walking hand in hand, talking about everything and nothing. Time seemed to both stop and speed up. Before Simone realized it, they were back at her apartment building. I had a wonderful time, she said. So did I. Can we do this again? Soon. I'd like that. Christopher walked her to her door, kissed her goodnight one more time, and then waited until she was safely inside before leaving. Simone leaned against her closed door, her hand over her racing heart, and smiled. Tomorrow they would go back to work at the center. But now everything had changed. They weren't just partners or friends anymore. They were something more. Something that felt like the beginning of forever. What do you think about Christopher and Simone's first date? Do you believe in taking chances on love even when it's risky? Share your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens next in their story. Over the following weeks, Christopher and Simone fell into a new rhythm. During the day they worked side by side at the community center, professional and focused. But in the evenings they explored their new relationship, going on dates and learning about each other in deeper ways. The center continued to thrive. The rooftop garden opened, and community members of all ages came to plant vegetables and flowers. Christopher organized a mentorship program, bringing in business professionals to coach aspiring entrepreneurs. Simone expanded the tutoring services, helping even more children with their studies. Through it all they supported each other. When Simone felt overwhelmed by the demands of running an expanding organization, Christopher helped her delegate and organize. When Christopher struggled with letting go of his controlling tendencies, Simone reminded him to trust the process and the people. On a Saturday afternoon, they worked together in the rooftop garden, teaching a group of children how to plant tomatoes. Jerome was there, as always, asking a million questions and making everyone laugh with his enthusiasm. Mr. Christopher, Jerome said seriously, are you and Miss Simone boyfriend and girlfriend now? My mom said you are. Christopher glanced at Simone, his expression amused. What do you think we should tell him? Simone knelt down to Jerome's level. Yes, we are. Is that okay with you? It's great. My mom also said. Miss Simone smiles more now, and that's because of you, Mr. Christopher. You make her happy. She makes me happy too, Christopher said softly, looking at Simone over Jerome's head. Very happy. After the gardening session, Christopher and Simone cleaned up while the volunteers took the children downstairs for a snack. Alone on the rooftop with the city stretching out around them, Christopher pulled Simone close. Have I told you today that you're amazing? He asked. Not yet. You're amazing. He kissed her forehead. I love watching you with the kids. You have such patience and warmth. They're good kids. They just need someone to believe in them. Like you believed in me. Simone looked up at him. I didn't have to believe in you. You showed me who you really were. You just had to let yourself be that person again. Christopher was quiet for a moment, his arms around her waist, looking out at the skyline. My father called yesterday. He heard about what I'm doing here. What did he say? He thinks I'm wasting my time and resources. That charity work is fine for tax write-offs but shouldn't be my main focus. He said I'm neglecting my company and my reputation. Christopher's voice was carefully neutral. How did that make you feel? At first angry, then sad. Because he doesn't understand that this is what success really looks like. Not money in a bank account, but lives being changed. Communities being strengthened. People having hope. He looked down at her. He doesn't understand that I've found something here that I was missing for years. purpose, connection, love. The last word hung in the air between them. They had been dating for a month, but neither had said the word yet. Simone felt her heart beat faster. Love, she repeated softly. Yes, love for this community. Love for the work we're doing together. He paused. And love for you, Simone. I'm in love with you. Tears filled her eyes. I love you too. I've been wanting to say it but didn't know if it was too soon. There's no such thing as too soon when it's real. Christopher cupped her face gently. I fought falling in love for so long, convinced it would make me weak or vulnerable. But loving you doesn't make me weak. It makes me stronger. Better. More myself than I've ever been. She kissed him, pouring all her feelings into it. When they pulled apart, both were smiling through happy tears. So what did you tell your father? Simone asked. I told him that I've finally figured out what matters. And if he can't support that, then I'm sorry, but I'm not changing my mind. This is my life now. This work. This community. You. That must have been hard. Not as hard as I thought it would be. Because I knew I was making the right choice. The only choice. He took her hands. Simone, I want to tell you something about my past. About why I became the person I was. They sat on one of the garden benches and Christopher began to talk. He told her about his childhood, about his mother's death, about his father's coldness afterward. He explained how his father had pushed him to succeed in business, to be ruthless and emotionless, to see relationships as distractions and weaknesses. I spent 15 years trying to be what my father wanted, Christopher said. Building a company, making money, cutting out anything that felt like softness or emotion. I rejected every woman who showed interest because my father said family and love would hold me back. I became exactly what he wanted me to be, successful and completely alone. That sounds miserable. It was. But I didn't even realize it until you confronted me that night. When you stood there calling me out for not caring about people, something cracked open inside me. I saw myself through your eyes and I didn't like what I saw. Simone squeezed his hands. But you changed. That takes courage. You gave me the courage. You and everyone here. You showed me that caring isn't weakness. That kindness isn't a liability. That love in all its forms is what makes life worth living. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. Of what we've built together. This center, this community, this relationship. All of it. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun begin its descent toward the horizon. Below them, the sounds of the center drifted up. Children playing, volunteers laughing, the everyday music of people helping each other. What about you? Christopher asked. Tell me about your dreams. Not just for the center, but for yourself. Simone thought about it. I want to expand. Open more community centers in other neighborhoods. Create a network of support across the entire city. I want to prove that communities can thrive when people care about each other, when kindness and hope lead the way. That's a beautiful vision. How can I help make it happen? You already are. Every day. I mean bigger. Let's make this a real plan. Use Lawson Industries' resources to replicate this model across the city. Across the country eventually. Why should only one neighborhood benefit from what we've learned? Simone felt excitement bubble up. You're serious? Completely. I've been thinking about it for weeks. What if we created a foundation? The Riverside Foundation for Community Development. We'll fund new centers, provide training and support, share best practices. Make kindness and community building scalable. Christopher, that would be incredible. But it's such a big undertaking. So was saving this center. You did that. He pulled her closer. We can do this together. Use my resources and your knowledge. My connections and your heart. We'll change the world, one community at a time. Tears spilled down Simone's cheeks. I can't believe this is real. 6 months ago I thought we were finished. Now we're talking about expanding across the country. 6 months ago I thought I knew what success meant. Now I know it means this. Meaningful work with someone you love, making a real difference in real lives. That's the only success that matters. As the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant colors, they stayed on the rooftop, planning and dreaming together. The future stretched out before them, full of possibility and promise. Below, the community center buzzed with life. People helping each other. Children learning and growing. Families sharing meals. Hope becoming reality. And above it all, two people who had found each other against all odds, building something beautiful together. Something that would last far beyond themselves. Love, kindness, and hope were changing the world, one heart at a time. The next 3 months passed in a blur of happiness and progress. Christopher and Simone were inseparable, both at work and in their personal lives. The community embraced their relationship, celebrating the love story unfolding in their midst. The Riverside Community Center had become a model for the entire city. Local news covered their success story, the community center that had nearly closed now thriving thanks to an unlikely partnership. Other organizations reached out for advice. Politicians visited to see what they had accomplished. Through it all, Christopher remained humble and focused. He redirected attention to the community members themselves, emphasizing that the center's success came from the people it served, not from any one person's efforts. "You've changed so much," Simone told him one evening as they walked home from the center together. They had fallen into the habit of walking the neighborhood after closing, enjoying the spring air and each other's company. "Have I?" Christopher asked, taking her hand. "The man I met at that gala would never have given credit to others. He was all about personal achievement. That man was a fool." Christopher stopped walking and pulled her close. He didn't understand that real achievement is measured by the lives you touch, not the wealth you accumulate. He didn't know that sharing success makes it sweeter. He definitely didn't know that loving someone makes everything better. Simone smiled up at him. "You're getting sentimental in your old age." "I'm 35, thank you very much. And yes, I am sentimental. About you. About us. About this life we're building together." They continued walking, their fingers intertwined. Around them, the neighborhood was settling into evening. Families sat on stoops, enjoying the warm weather. Kids played one last game before being called in for bed. The community they served lived and breathed around them. "I have something to tell you," Simone said. "The city council contacted me today. They want to use our model for a new initiative. They're offering funding to help us expand to 3 more neighborhoods." Christopher's face lit up. "Simone, that's incredible. This is exactly what we hoped for." "I know. It's happening faster than I expected. But I'm worried. What if we can't maintain the same quality when we expand? What if we lose what makes this place special?" "We won't. Because the special thing about this place is the philosophy behind it. Putting people first, building community, leading with kindness. That scales. We'll train new directors, share our approach, provide ongoing support. And we'll do it together." "Together?" Simone echoed, feeling reassured. "I like the sound of that." That weekend, they hosted a community celebration to mark the center's 1-year anniversary since the renovation began. The rooftop garden overflowed with flowers and vegetables. The library was filled with readers. Every program was thriving. During the celebration, Jerome approached them with his mother, a woman named Patricia who worked 2 jobs to support her 3 children. "Miss Simone, Mr. Christopher," Jerome said formally. "My mom wants to tell you something." Patricia's eyes were damp with emotion. "I just wanted to say thank you. A year ago, I didn't know how we were going to make it. I was working all the time and my kids were struggling. Then this center became our lifeline. Jerome learned to read here. My daughter got help with her math. And I took the computer class that helped me get a better job. You saved us. Both of you." Simone hugged her. "You saved yourself. You did the work. We just provided the space. That space changed everything." Patricia looked at Christopher. "And you, Mr. Lawson. People told me you were cold and cruel. But you've been nothing but kind to my family. Thank you for seeing us as people, not just charity cases." Christopher looked genuinely touched. "Thank you for letting me be part of your community. You and your children have taught me more than I've taught you." As Patricia and Jerome walked away, Christopher turned to Simone. "Moments like that make everything worthwhile." "Yes," she agreed. "They really do." Later that evening, after all the guests had gone home and the volunteers had finished cleaning up, Christopher and Simone stood alone in the main hall. The space was quiet, peaceful, full of the echoes of a day well spent. "Dance with me," Christopher said suddenly. "There's no music." He pulled out his phone and started a slow song. Then he took her in his arms and began to sway gently. Simone rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I could do this forever," Christopher murmured. "Dance in empty community centers? Be with you. Anywhere. Everywhere. Forever." Simone pulled back to look at him. "Forever is a long time. Not long enough." His expression was serious, vulnerable. "Simone, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You're my forever. This work we do together, this life we're building, the love we share. I want all of it always." "So do I." She touched his face gently. "I love you, Christopher. More than I knew it was possible to love someone." They kissed and it felt like a promise. A commitment to each other, to their shared mission, to the future they were creating together. Over the following weeks, they worked on plans for the expansion. Christopher brought in architects and construction managers. Simone recruited and trained new directors for each location. Together, they refined their approach, documenting everything they had learned over the past year. The first new center opened in the West Side neighborhood, following the Riverside model exactly. Christopher and Simone attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony, watching with pride as another community gained access to the services they needed. "This is just the beginning," Christopher said as they toured the new facility. "5 years from now, we'll have centers in every neighborhood that needs one." "You think big," Simone observed. "I learned from the best." He smiled at her. "You taught me that thinking small means settling for less impact. If we want to change the world, we have to be bold." On a Tuesday evening, Christopher took Simone to the rooftop garden of the original Riverside Center. He had asked her to meet him there after work, saying he had something important to discuss. She found him standing by the tomato plants, which were heavy with fruit. The setting sun painted everything in warm gold and orange light, making the whole garden glow. "Hi," she said, joining him. "What's going on? You sounded mysterious on the phone." Christopher took her hands and she noticed he seemed nervous. "I wanted to talk to you somewhere special. This rooftop has become symbolic for me. It represents growth, new life, potential being realized. It's where we first told each other we loved each other." "I remember." Simone felt her heart beginning to race. Something big was happening. "Simone Brooks, you changed my life. You took a man who thought he knew everything and showed him he knew nothing about what mattered. You taught me about kindness, hope, and love. You made me want to be better, do better, give more." He paused, his gray eyes locked on hers. "I don't want to spend another day without you as my partner in everything. Not just in work but in life." He released one of her hands and reached into his pocket. When he pulled out a small velvet box, Simone felt tears spring to her eyes. "I'm not getting down on one knee because I think we're equals, partners in every way. But I am asking you with my whole heart, will you marry me?" He opened the box to reveal a beautiful ring, simple and elegant, with a single diamond that caught the fading sunlight. Simone felt joy flood through her entire being. "Yes. Yes, Christopher. Yes to everything. Yes to forever." He slipped the ring on her finger, then pulled her into his arms, kissing her as the sun set behind them. When they finally pulled apart, both were crying happy tears. "I love you," he said. "I love you so much." "I love you too. So much it almost hurts." They stayed on the rooftop as darkness fell, holding each other and making plans for their future. A future filled with love, community work, and the joy of building something meaningful together. Below them, the community center glowed with light. Inside, people were helping each other, learning, growing, thriving. Above them, stars began to appear in the darkening sky. And in between, two people who had found each other through courage and kindness, ready to face whatever came next together. Their love story was just beginning. The engagement announcement spread quickly through the community and beyond. Everyone at the Riverside Center celebrated with genuine joy. Jerome appointed himself the official ring-bearer in training, practicing his serious walk down imaginary aisles. Volunteers planned an engagement party. The neighborhood buzzed with happiness. But not everyone was pleased with Christopher and Simone's success. Preston Hughes, CEO of Hughes Development Corporation and Christopher's longtime business rival, watched their growing influence with increasing irritation. Preston had competed with Christopher for years. Every major deal, every business opportunity, every chance for recognition had become a contest between them. But Preston had always felt secure in one area. He was better connected, more ruthless, more willing to do whatever it took to win. Christopher's transformation bothered Preston deeply. The cold, focused businessman he used to compete against had become soft, distracted by charity work and romance. Preston had expected this to hurt Christopher's business, but instead, Christopher's reputation had soared. Lawson Industries was attracting top talent who wanted to work for a company with values. Investors were impressed by Christopher's community commitment. The business press was calling him a visionary leader. Worse, Christopher seemed genuinely happy. He had found something Preston didn't have: love, purpose, meaningful connection. And Preston couldn't stand it. So Preston began to plot. He would remind Christopher what happened when you lost focus. He would show Simone that building on kindness made you vulnerable. And he would do it in a way that wouldn't trace back to him directly. Preston started small. He used his connections on the city planning board to slow down permit approvals for the new community centers. Paperwork got lost. Inspections found minor violations that required refiling. Progress slowed from a sprint to a crawl. At first, Simone and Christopher thought it was normal bureaucratic delays. But as the problems multiplied across all 3 expansion sites simultaneously, they began to suspect something more. "This doesn't make sense," Simone said, reviewing the latest round of rejection notices. "We followed all the procedures exactly. These violations they're citing are either false or incredibly minor." Christopher's expression was grim. "Someone's interfering. The question is who and why." They redoubled their efforts, appealing every decision and triple-checking every submission. But the obstacles kept appearing. Construction crews showed up to find their permits mysteriously suspended. Deliveries of equipment were delayed without explanation. Inspectors became increasingly difficult. Meanwhile, Preston moved to Phase 2. He arranged for unfavorable news coverage. A reporter with connections to Hughes Development wrote an article questioning whether community centers were the best use of urban space. Another piece suggested that Christopher was neglecting his company responsibilities. A third implied that Simone lacked the experience to manage multiple locations. The articles weren't outright attacks, just subtle enough to plant seeds of doubt. But Simone felt their effect. Donors began calling with concerns. The city council reconsidered parts of their funding commitment. Some volunteers worried that the expansion was too ambitious. "Don't let them get to you," Christopher said, pulling Simone close one evening after a particularly difficult day. "We know what we're doing. We know our impact is real." "I know. But it's frustrating. Everything was going so well and now it feels like we're fighting fires everywhere. We'll figure out who's behind this. And we'll stop them." Christopher hired a private investigator, who began tracing the connections between the various obstacles they were facing. Within 2 weeks he had a name: Preston Hughes. "I should have known," Christopher said, reading the report. "Preston has always been competitive, but I didn't think he'd stoop this low." "What do we do?" Simone asked. "We expose him. We show everyone what he's doing and why." But Preston had anticipated this. He had been careful to keep his involvement indirect. He had used intermediaries, made suggestions rather than direct orders, created plausible deniability at every step. The investigator's report showed a pattern but no smoking gun. Christopher called a meeting with his lawyers and advisors. They reviewed every option, looking for a way to stop Preston's interference without engaging in the same kind of underhanded tactics. "We could fight fire with fire," one lawyer suggested. "Use our connections to block some of Hughes Development's projects." "No," Christopher said firmly. "That's not who we are. We don't hurt people to win." "Then what do we do?" another advisor asked. "Preston's winning. He's slowing us down, damaging our reputation, undermining everything you've built." Christopher looked at Simone. "We do what we've always done. We focus on the work. We let our results speak for themselves. And we trust that kindness and integrity will win in the end." "That's risky," the lawyer warned. "While you're being noble, Preston will keep attacking." "Let him," Simone said, finding her voice. "Every attack just shows his character compared to ours. We'll document everything, continue doing excellent work, and trust the community to see the truth." Over the next few weeks they did exactly that. When permits were delayed, they used the time to improve their plans. When negative articles appeared, they responded with facts and testimonials from community members. When obstacles arose, they found creative solutions. The Riverside Center continued to thrive, proof of concept for their model. The community rallied around them, writing letters to the city council and organizing petitions of support. Local television covered the story of people fighting for their community centers. And slowly public opinion began to shift. People saw through Preston's subtle attacks. They recognized the difference between a company trying to make a profit and an organization trying to make a difference. But Preston wasn't finished. If subtle tactics wouldn't work, he would need to be more direct. He started making offers to key people in Simone and Christopher's organization. Higher salaries, better positions, anything to lure away their best volunteers and staff. Most people refused immediately. They were committed to the mission, not interested in working for someone like Preston. But a few were tempted. Times were hard and Preston's offers were generous. One of the new center directors, a man named James Walker, accepted Preston's offer. He had been struggling financially, and the salary Preston offered would solve his problems. James called Simone to explain, his voice heavy with guilt. "I'm so sorry," James said. "I know this leaves you in a difficult position. But I have a family to support, and I can't pass up this opportunity." Simone felt disappointed but not angry. "I understand, James. You have to do what's best for your family. I'll work through the transition period, help train my replacement. I won't leave you hanging. Thank you. And James? I hope everything works out for you. After she hung up, Christopher found her staring out the window. That was James? He's taking a job with Hughes Development. Preston offered him twice what we're paying. Christopher sighed. Preston's trying to cripple our expansion by taking our people. What if more people leave? What if we can't compete with his salaries? Then we find people who believe in the mission more than the money. We've done it before. Christopher wrapped his arms around her. We can't match Preston's resources, but we have something he doesn't. Genuine purpose and community support. That's worth more than any salary. You really believe that? I know it, because I chose it. I could have kept building my company focused only on profit. Instead, I chose this work, this community. You. Best decision I ever made. Simone leaned into him, drawing strength from his certainty. We're going to get through this. Yes, we are. Together. But as they stood looking out at the city, both wondered what Preston would try next. The battle was far from over, and the stakes kept getting higher. Their dream of expanding community services across the city hung in the balance. All they could do was keep moving forward, keep believing in their mission, and hope that love and kindness would be enough to overcome greed and ambition. The community's response to Preston's tactics was swift and powerful. When word spread that he was trying to sabotage the community centers, people organized. They held rallies at City Hall. They flooded social media with stories of how the Riverside Center had changed their lives. They wrote letters to every news outlet, every politician, every person who might listen. Jerome, now 8 years old and reading at grade level, stood up at a city council meeting with his mother's support. His small voice carried through the chamber as he read a letter he had written. My name is Jerome Taylor. Before the Riverside Center, I couldn't read. My mom worked all the time and nobody helped me with homework. I thought I was dumb. Then Miss Simone taught me that I wasn't dumb, I just needed help. Now I love reading. I want to be a scientist. The community center gave me that dream. Please don't let anyone take it away from other kids like me. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. The council members approved the permits that had been mysteriously held up. Within days, construction resumed on all 3 expansion sites. But Preston wasn't deterred. He called Christopher directly, no longer bothering with indirect tactics. You're making a mistake, Preston said without preamble. All this charity work is distracting you from real business. Lawson Industries stock is flat while other companies in our sector are surging. My company is doing fine, Christopher replied calmly. And even if it wasn't, I'm happy with my choices. Happy? You used to be a competitor. Now you're a social worker playing businessman. I used to be miserable. Now I'm fulfilled. If you can't see the difference, Preston, I feel sorry for you. Sorry for me? I'm winning. I'm building an empire while you're building sandboxes for children. And when you're lying on your deathbed, Preston, what will you have to show for your empire? Money you can't take with you? Property that will belong to someone else? I'll have community members whose lives I touched. Children I helped educate. Families I helped feed. That's the only empire that matters. Preston was silent for a moment. You've changed, Christopher. Yes, I have. For the better. You could too if you wanted. I don't need to change. I'm successful. Are you happy? The question seemed to catch Preston off guard. What? Are you happy? When you wake up every morning, are you excited about your day? Do you have people who genuinely care about you, not your money? Do you feel like your life has meaning? Preston hung up without answering. But the call left Christopher thinking. He discussed it with Simone that evening. I almost feel bad for him, Christopher said. He's so focused on winning that he's forgotten why the game matters. Can we reach him? Show him there's another way? I don't know. But maybe we should try. Christopher drafted a letter to Preston. He didn't attack or defend. Instead, he invited Preston to visit the Riverside Center, to see for himself what they were building. He offered to show Preston that success and service weren't mutually exclusive, that you could do well while doing good. He didn't expect a response. But 3 days later, Preston showed up at the community center unannounced. Simone was teaching a literacy class when Preston walked in. She recognized him immediately from photos. Her first instinct was to ask him to leave, but then she remembered what Christopher had said about reaching out with kindness. Mr. Hughes, she said calmly, can I help you? Preston looked uncomfortable, out of place in his expensive suit among the simply dressed students. I got Christopher's letter. I came to see what the fuss is about. Then let me show you. Simone excused herself from the class and gave Preston the full tour. She showed him every program, introduced him to volunteers, let him see the impact firsthand. In the job training center, a woman was practicing interview skills. In the computer lab, adults were learning to use software that would help them find better employment. In the kitchen, volunteers prepared meals for families who needed them. Everywhere, people were helping each other, building community, creating hope. Preston remained silent throughout the tour. His expression was unreadable. But Simone noticed he watched everything carefully, paying particular attention to the interactions between volunteers and community members. When they finished, Christopher had arrived. He found Simone and Preston in the main hall. "Preston," Christopher said, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming." Preston shook his hand reluctantly. "Your letter said I was missing something. What did you mean? Come upstairs. Let's talk." They went to the rooftop garden, where the afternoon sun illuminated the thriving plants. Christopher and Simone sat on one bench, Preston on another across from them. "When I was building Lawson Industries," Christopher began, "I thought success meant being the biggest, the richest, the most powerful. I competed with you for every deal because I thought winning was everything. But I was miserable. I had money and power, but no connection, no purpose, no joy. And now you do?" Preston's tone was skeptical. "Yes. Because I discovered that real success isn't about accumulation. It's about impact. It's not about what you have but what you give. Not about beating others but lifting them up." "That's naive." "Is it? Look around you, Preston. This community is thriving because people chose to help each other. Our expansion is happening because volunteers donated time and effort. Our reputation is growing because we deliver real results. And all of it came from choosing kindness over competition, service over self-interest." Simone added, "We're not saying business success is wrong. But it's not enough by itself. Christopher's company is still profitable. He's just using those profits for something meaningful now." Preston was quiet for a long time. "I don't have this," he finally said. "I have a company, money, property. But I don't have people who care about me. I don't have a community. I don't have—" He trailed off. "It's not too late," Christopher said gently. "You could stop fighting us and join us. Use your resources for good. Experience what it feels like to help instead of compete." "Why would you want my help after everything I've done to hurt you?" "Because kindness always wins. Because love means giving people second chances. Because we believe everyone has the potential to contribute positively if given the opportunity." Christopher looked at Simone, who nodded encouragingly. "So we're offering you that opportunity. Help us build community centers. Use your development skills for projects that serve people instead of just generating profit. Join us in making a real difference." Preston stood abruptly. "I need to think about this." "Take all the time you need," Simone said. "The offer stands." After Preston left, Christopher pulled Simone close. "Do you think he'll actually consider it?" "I don't know. But we had to try. If we believe in kindness and second chances, we have to offer them to everyone. Even people who've hurt us." 2 weeks passed with no word from Preston. The expansion projects continued. The new centers began operating successfully. The community's support grew stronger. Then one morning, Simone received a call from an unknown number. "Miss Brooks? This is Preston Hughes. I've been thinking about your offer. I'd like to discuss how I might help with the expansion." Simone gestured excitedly to Christopher, who was working nearby. "Mr. Hughes, that's wonderful. When would you like to meet?" "Today if possible. I have some ideas I'd like to share." That afternoon, Preston returned to the Riverside Center. This time he came with plans. He had used his development expertise to design a more efficient model for building community centers. He offered to donate construction services for the next 3 locations. And he proposed creating a joint venture, Hughes Development and Lawson Industries, working together to build community spaces across the city. "Why the change of heart?" Christopher asked. Preston looked down at his hands. "I went home after our last meeting and realized I was alone. Completely alone. I have employees who fear me, competitors who hate me, and no one who actually cares about me as a person. I've spent my entire life trying to win, and all I've won is isolation." He looked up, meeting their eyes. "You two have something I don't. Real partnership. Real purpose. Real happiness. And I want that. So I'm asking, will you give me a chance? Let me prove I can contribute to something meaningful?" Simone and Christopher exchanged glances. This was the moment they had to practice what they preached. To offer grace instead of grudges. To lead with hope instead of skepticism. "Yes," Simone said firmly. "We'll give you that chance. Welcome to the team, Preston." Christopher extended his hand. Partners? Preston shook it, and for the first time since they'd met, he smiled. Partners. Over the following months, Preston transformed as Christopher had before him. He still ran his development company, but now he focused on projects that served communities. He volunteered at the centers regularly. He used his connections to help secure funding and permits. And slowly he began to experience what it felt like to give instead of take. The day the fourth community center opened, Preston stood with Christopher and Simone at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. The crowd cheered as the three of them cut the ribbon together, partners in building something that mattered. Later, as they toured the new facility, Preston pulled Christopher aside. Thank you. For not giving up on me. For showing me there was another way. Thank you for being willing to change. That's the hardest thing anyone can do. I still have a lot to learn about this kindness thing. We all do. That's why we do it together. As they rejoined Simone and the community celebration, Christopher felt a deep sense of peace. They had faced challenges and come through stronger. They had offered grace and seen it transform lives. They had chosen love over fear, kindness over competition, hope over doubt. And they had won in the way that mattered most, by making the world a little bit better, one person and one community at a time. 6 months after Preston's transformation, the network of community centers spanned 12 locations across the city. Each one thrived with the same model: programs focused on education, job training, and community support, all driven by volunteers and sustained by partnerships between businesses and neighborhoods. The Riverside Foundation for Community Development had become a recognized leader in urban community building. Other cities were reaching out, wanting to replicate the model. Christopher, Simone, and Preston were regularly invited to speak at conferences and workshops. But for all their external success, what mattered most to Christopher and Simone was the life they were building together. They had moved into a house near the original Riverside Center, wanting to stay close to the community that had brought them together. Their wedding was planned for spring, and the entire neighborhood was involved in preparations. Jerome had grown another inch and took his ring-bearer duties very seriously. Volunteers were handling decorations. The rooftop garden would be filled with flowers for the ceremony. On a Saturday morning in March, Simone woke to find Christopher already up, standing by the bedroom window looking out at the neighborhood. "Can't sleep?" she asked, joining him. "Just thinking about how much has changed in 2 years. When I bought that building, planning to sell it for profit, I had no idea it would change my entire life. No regrets. Not a single one." He pulled her close. "You saved me, Simone. You showed me what really matters. We saved each other. I was about to lose everything I'd worked for. You gave me the resources to not just survive but thrive. We're a good team. The best team." They spent the morning at the center as they did most Saturdays. The place hummed with activity. Children were playing basketball in the gym. Adults attended a financial literacy workshop. The community garden was full of people planting spring vegetables. Preston arrived mid-morning, bringing coffee for everyone. His transformation continued to amaze people who had known him before. He had started dating a woman who worked at one of the centers, someone who loved him for who he was becoming, not for his money or status. "Big news," Preston announced. "The mayor wants to create a city-wide initiative based on our model. She's proposing funding for 20 more community centers over the next 5 years." Christopher and Simone exchanged excited looks. 20 more? Simone asked. 20 more. She's calling it the Riverside Initiative in honor of where it all started. She wants to announce it at your wedding reception, if you don't mind mixing business with pleasure. "We don't mind at all," Christopher said. "This is incredible, Preston. Your connections with City Hall made this possible." Preston looked pleased but humble. "I'm just glad to be part of something that matters. For years, I measured success by how many competitors I beat. Now I measure it by how many communities we help. It's a much better feeling." As the morning progressed, various community members stopped by to say hello. Each person had a story about how the center had impacted their life. Jerome's mother had been promoted at her job. An elderly man had made new friends through the senior program. A young woman had started her own business after completing the entrepreneurship training. "This is what it's all about," Simone said softly to Christopher. "Not the awards or recognition. These small moments when someone's life gets a little bit better. You taught me that. You taught me to see people, not just problems or opportunities." That evening, they hosted the final pre-wedding gathering at their house. Close friends, volunteers, and community members filled their home with laughter and joy. Jerome helped pass out appetizers, his formal manner making everyone smile. During a quiet moment, Simone's best friend Denise pulled her aside. You look happy. Really, genuinely happy. I am. I didn't think this kind of happiness was possible. You deserve it. After everything you've done for this community, you deserve all the happiness in the world. It's not about deserving. It's about being open to it. I could have held on to anger about almost losing the center. I could have rejected Christopher's help out of pride. But I chose to accept kindness when it was offered. I chose to believe in second chances. And look what happened. Denise hugged her. I'm so glad you did. You've changed so many lives, including your own. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather. Spring sunshine filled the rooftop garden, where chairs were arranged in neat rows. Flowers bloomed everywhere, creating a riot of color. The entire neighborhood had turned out, dressed in their best clothes, ready to celebrate. Simone stood in the center's office, wearing a beautiful white dress that her friends had helped her choose. It was simple but elegant, perfect for a community celebration rather than a formal event. Jerome knocked on the door, looking sharp in his suit. Miss Simone? Mr. Christopher sent me to tell you he's ready. And I'm ready too. I've been practicing all week. She knelt down to his level. I know you'll do great. Thank you for being such an important part of our special day. You're welcome. I'm glad you and Mr. Christopher found each other. You make each other happy. Yes, we do. Music started playing. Simone took her father's arm and walked through the center one last time before becoming Mrs. Lawson. They passed the library, the computer lab, the kitchen, the gym. Every space held memories of transformation and hope. Then they climbed the stairs to the rooftop. The ceremony was short and sweet, focused on community and love. Christopher's eyes never left Simone's face as she walked toward him. When they exchanged vows, promising to support each other in their mission to serve others, many guests cried happy tears. Jerome carried the rings with utmost seriousness, presenting them at exactly the right moment. The community cheered as Christopher and Simone were pronounced husband and wife. The reception filled the entire center. Every floor had food, music, and celebration. The mayor arrived as promised and announced the Riverside Initiative to thunderous applause. She presented Christopher and Simone with a commendation for their community service. But the best part was watching everyone come together. Rich and poor, young and old, longtime residents and new arrivals, all celebrating as one community. This was the dream realized. People united by kindness and hope, proving that love could overcome any obstacle. As the sun set, Christopher and Simone slipped away to the rooftop for a quiet moment together. Below them, the celebration continued. Above them, stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Mrs. Lawson, Christopher said, pulling her close. How does it feel? Perfect. Absolutely perfect. She kissed him softly. Thank you for taking a chance on a woman who dared to talk back to you. Thank you for seeing past the cold billionaire to the person I could become. Thank you for teaching me about real success. Thank you for loving me. Always. Forever. They stood together, looking out at the city they were helping to transform, one community at a time. Their love story had started with a confrontation at a gala, but it had blossomed into something beautiful. A partnership built on shared values, mutual respect, and a commitment to making the world better. The Riverside Community Center, which had almost closed 2 years ago, now anchored a network of hope across the entire city. Thousands of lives had been touched. Hundreds of families had been helped. Countless dreams had been made possible. And it all started because one woman had the courage to speak up, and one man had the humility to listen. As they rejoined the celebration, hand in hand, Christopher and Simone knew that this was just the beginning. They would spend the rest of their lives serving communities together, building networks of support, spreading kindness and hope wherever they went. Love had led them to each other. Kindness had transformed them both. Hope had built something lasting and beautiful. And their forever was just beginning.